Hello and welcome to Wheel Footy, the most national wheelchair football series on YouTube, probably. We'll get right into it. Victoria had just the one game this weekend, the preliminary final, Richmond versus Collingwood. Richmond, having not lost a home and away game this season, were the favourites and marked it by scoring the first 3 goals in a flurry. Kotsantis again causing headaches this time for the Pies defence, 19-1, 4 minutes in. From here, the Pies held firm. Jankowski answers for the Magpies with Martin Ford and Josh Christian beginning to combine and taking the midfield ascendancy in a hard and tough first term. No less than 3 Richmond players going to ground, and it set the tone for the rest of the game. Both sides missed chances though. Even Kotsantis shot into the man on the mark on the buzzer to end the first term, with the Tigers holding a slim 21-14 advantage. Compared to the other VWFL matches I'd seen the week prior, this was a more traditional possession-based kick-and-mark style of game, very similar to the SANFL, with the pressure too high to play around with quick counters. Shout out to McKay for the first goal of the second, sparked by a behind-the-back underhanded flick pass, but Mavroudas scored on the move to cancel that goal out pretty quickly afterwards. The scoring then began to dry up, a tight defensive display from both sides. McKay took an impressive mark to narrow the gap to 1. Sam Moraldo levels the game with a long-range miss. Defenders on both sides were particularly impressive, especially Collingwood's Brad Axford and Richmond's Shannon Sykes. Moraldo has a shot with some 10 seconds left in the half from distance, but he misses. James Wynert from the kick-in finds Ange Mavroudas as the bell rings, but he's too far out for his range. 28-29, Pies up at the half. Moraldo opens the second with a shot, but McKay gets yellow carded for elbowing Richmond's Jude Anthony in a weird off-the-ball incident that seems like it had a bit of a prelude, but I couldn't really tell from the footage that we have. The Anthony pass from the free kick is picked off though, resulting in another Moraldo shot, which misses. Richmond, mainly through Wynert and Shadwell, methodically work their way downfield, and the Tigers find Kotsantis. He misses too, under high pressure. Atypical for not just Kotsantis for the season, but the Victorian League in general. Moraldo takes a fantastic mark down the other end, but again his shot drifts left of the target. Wynert then finds Kotsantis and he kicks only his 3rd goal of the day. Remember, he averages 10 per game across the entire rest of the season. So Richmond lead by 4. Mavroudas has a shot not even a minute later, but can only extend the Tiger lead by 1. McKay benefits from an Anthony 5-metre penalty, throwing the Tigers' backline into disarray with a mark, but his shot goes straight into Anthony on the mark, the ball eventually being rebounded. Mavroudas has a shot, but great efforts by Christian in defence provided enough pressure for Ange to miss to the left. Collingwood tries a risky gambit with fast play in the forward third, only to generate 1 behind. Christian then backs up his effort, picking off the kick-out pass and shelling one to Sam Moraldo, who converts right on the 3/4 time siren. Collingwood again lead by a single point, this time with 10 minutes and time on to play. The final term was the lowest scoring and tightest of a tight and low scoring contest. Wynert, who played a superb game, finds Mavroudas, who shoots right from the edge of his range, but drags it across the face to level it. Ford slightly undercooks a pass, Wynert begins a rebounding move, and the man in the long sleeves finishes off the move by passing to CK6. The big man, who'd kicked 96 goals for the season so far, stayed on 96, narrowly missing from deep range. Still, the Tigers grabbed the lead. Josh Christian helps mastermind the rebound from the kick-in, and McKay takes a good mark, but on a tight angle. His shot, in all honesty, is slightly lucky to register any score, levelling the game with 4 minutes and 20 seconds played of the final term. Kotsantis, about a minute later, finds some space right in front, but right on the forward zone paint. It's a good effort, but he misses. Then, disaster. Axford's kick-in just eludes Pie hands and falls out of bounds. Richmond keeps the ball and finds Ange Mavroudas. From similar distance, he sneaks it through for a goal. 7 points the gap, some 3 minutes left to play. Collingwood have a couple of entries, but the ball goes out of play each time. Mavroudas has one final miss with about a minute left that practically seals the deal. Jankowski takes a desperation shot from almost the centre square to keep it alive, but his shot just shaves the inside of the goalpost, and that settled it. Richmond won their way through to their 6th grand final in 7 years by only 7 points. And thanks for that factoid, by the way, Bailey, who did a great job on the call. The live stream's still up and available on the VWFL Facebook page. Really loved the performances of Wynett and Shadwell. They were there when their club needed them, and a particular shout out to Tisha Shadwell as the only female player in the match. Axford, Christian and Ford all had terrific games for mine on the Collingwood side, and both teams would have been deserving winners. Better conversion from either would have seen them safely home. I will say that 2 weeks ago I would have said the Tigers canter to the flag, but after seeing the last 2 games I would count St Kilda now as only slight underdogs. Get out there to the National Hockey Centre in Parkville on Sunday. It should be an absolute ripper. Plus you'll get to see the only AFL affiliated 100-goal season from Chris Kotsanis should he kick 4 against the Saints. Cameron's not going to make it, no matter how much I want him to. Now to the SANFL. This week's fixtures look promising. First up, Woodville West Torrens against Norwood. The Redlegs were missing a couple of their massive rotation of defenders, Michael Nerissa to an arm injury and Nathan Simpson to coaching a wheelchair basketball tournament interstate. Meanwhile, the Eagles finally got to debut wheelchair basketball sensation Cooper Spillane, who's had big raps on him coming into the season but hasn't been able to play in this league due to his duties with, I think, the under-23s Australia national team, which is crazy. He sat on the bench for the first term as the Eagles did their usual thing. After a tightly contested slog early, Trevor Jarrett took control of the game, as he normally does, beating a spirited Norwood defence to score 4 majors in the last 5 minutes of the first. Adam Roki again provided a ridiculous level of contribution, even eclipsing his season record stat feeder score in doing so. The Eagles found a midfield ascendancy, particularly in the second term, as Cooper Spillane entered the game. His pace and movement was hard to match. He was able to neutralise Grant Leonard in defence and score goals when he moved up forward. In only about a quarter's worth of footy spent up front, he kicked 8 goals to set up a comfortable Eagle margin, which was one more than Jarrett managed for the entire game, although Jarrett allowed himself breaks on the sidelines to watch his new charge in action. And understandably, he seemed extremely proud and happy of Spillane's performance afterward, and I'm looking forward to seeing how he can go in future games. Norwood were by no means bad defensively, just beaten in ruck contests early as they didn't seem on the same page. Richard Davis played a highly solid 4 quarters of defence, with Chris Simpson putting in a typically productive cameo, and Darren Schutz looking solid when required in back. Normally he plays rotation in midfield. Spillane simply had too much pace and agility to deal with. The Eagles provided more and better quality chances for their forwards and had a markedly higher disposal efficiency overall. Still, the Redlegs did keep the Eagles to their lowest score and smallest win this season outside of the forfeit game, and even won the second half once they found ways to capitalise on the consistent tap work of Rick Leonard in ruck, who played well for little reward. There's encouraging signs still in the Norwood performance, even though it was, in the end, I believe, a 51-point loss from memory. I completely forgot to write the scores down in my little script here. But yeah, I think there's a lot of confidence in that lineup going forward, and they should probably get over the line in their final 2 fixtures for the season. The second game had potential to be the game of the weekend across both codes. Centrals and West Adelaide had fought out a tense and tight battle last time out that West were unlucky not to win. Unfortunately, their defensive rock in Jake Millsborough was unavailable, and it showed early. Central District scored the first 3 through almost telepathic connections through centre Sean Whitbread and forward Stuart Webster. Centrals held a 37-1 lead at the first break, West by their own admission just not quite at the races, and I feared a bludgeoning may be in order, but Tony Wade stood up down back and helped West build a solid foundation, keeping the gap at only 6 goals come half-time. Chitty provided his usual tall presence up front and handy shovel work in the guts, getting key contributions again with not as much time on ground or supply as his fellow key forwards in the league. Johnny Van Rantry offered up perhaps his best performance of the season, chipping in with a couple of goals to provide resistance in the second half, and these stats are very, very good for the amount of time he spent on ground. So congratulations on that performance, Johnny. You were sensational. West even staged somewhat of a late comeback as they shifted Dan into the centre, completely ceding ruck ascendancy to the much taller Whitbread to increase speed and pressure on the ground, which worked as they managed to pressure Central's ball movement, with the Dogs turning it over equally as much as the Westies. West managed to get within 3 goals, only for Centrals to take some authority and end up gapping them by 34 when all was said and done. This enhanced pressure hugely helped in preventing Webster from getting a 10-goal haul that he looked certain to get early on, ending up with just the 9, unfortunately. Around the ground, James Barker provided his usual dogged attack on the ball, and combined with more centre bounce attendances, he was stiff to not make my team of the week. Gang Dan again filled in every role possible and made all manner of contributions, continuing to make a complete joke of my VORP calculations by featuring in the top 10 as a defender and a forward. And again, the whole West team played with spirit and heart, but a number of factors, not least fatigue from having to all play in the reserves game as well beforehand, saw them fall short on the scoreboard. But again, encouraging signs. You've got to remember what this fixture was the first time around. It was a belting, it wasn't even close. To get within, 5 or 6 goals for a team that's still learning how each other plays, very, very promising. They'll be thereabouts next season. Central's win really makes the race for the second grand final spot interesting. Both sides are equal on 16 points at the moment, with Norwood having a massively higher percentage. So basically everything all hinges on their clash this week, which will be absolutely amazing Friday night at Lightsview, with West having locked in their last place last week, and Woodville West Torrens with this result securing first place. In terms of top scorers, despite spending 15 minutes on the Pine, Jarrett extends his lead, having scored as many goals by his lonesome as Norwood did as a team. Leonard gets overtaken for third by Webster's mighty performance, whilst Spillane has already almost overtaken West's leading scorer in Chitty. Now, looking at the team of the week, and we'll just skip past Adam Roki being the starting midfielder for the 6th week in a row, our forward line, of course, contains Spillane, as well as the 9-goal performance from Webster. The defence consists of Richard Davis and West's Yang Dan. Whitbread's remarkable 195-point performance unfortunately only earns a bench spot as the second best midfielder. The reserve forward spot is occupied by Jarrett, who made similar levels of contributions to Norwood's Jamie Smythe, but in less game time, whilst Tony Wade makes his first team of the week as the defensive substitute, just edging Chris Simpson out. Both had very similar contributions, very similar time on ground. It was hard to split them. Wade just edging it out. All in all, a great week of wheelchair footy, and I'm really keen to stream the grand final in the Victorian League. I want to do a full-on stats breakdown of that one, so the next episode may take a bit longer to produce. Sorry about that. I'm also thinking about covering that grand final by live reacting to it. Yeah, let me know if that's something you want to see. Thanks again to all the players involved who have given me some really good games to report on this week. Thanks to the VWFL for live streaming the prelim, so I can actually take a look at that game and see what actually happened. And I'll stop rambling. See you next week for some very, very important games. Again, if you're in your local states and you don't play or you don't watch wheelchair footy, get down to see it. Some big, pivotal games this week. Grand final in Victoria, and basically what serves as the semi/prelim for SA. Right, see ya. Bye. Go.